are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 188. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you're in the right place. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. For those of you who do not know me, maybe you are tuning in for the first time. My name is Anna Charles, and on this 90 Days Later podcast, we talk about how to drink less without missing out, without giving up on your identity, or maybe feeling like life has gone a bit beige. Who wants beige all the time? Certainly not me. All right, so today's episode is for anyone who's ever thought something along the lines of, is it sad that wine is the part of the day I look forward to the most? Or maybe you don't ask it as a question, but it's kind of like a statement. Wine is my favorite part of the day. If your glass of wine feels like the highlight, right, the punctuation mark, the only something, or maybe the main something in a day full of shoulds, I see you. So today we're going to be unpacking what it means when wine becomes the entertainment, not the add-on, not the sidekick, not the kind of, the added thing on the side, but the main event. A client once said to me, the drinking now, Anna, right? The drinking has become my entertainment. It makes the day feel less bland. A client of mine once told me, look, Anna, the real issue I have is that wine has become my entertainment, my way of feeling good, right? Drinking makes my day feel less, bland. And wow, right? That hit, because it is so real. We think of wine as this little add-on to enhance the moment, right? We're going to see a sunset, so we're going to do it with a glass of rosé. We're going to toast the bride and groom, so we're going to do it with a glass of champagne. But what is really happening underneath? This is the question I want you to ask yourself. Because what happens is wine becomes, it's kind of like a shortcut, right? The shortcut to fun, the stand-in for pleasure, and the quick fix. I'm calling you out here in particular, if you suffer from this. It becomes a quick fix for boredom or monotony, right? It turns just another Tuesday into, at least there's wine later. It turns folding the laundry into, I'll be able to have a drink when I finish this. And it even turns answering evening emails, I used to do this all the time, into this will be more fun with a glass of wine, right? We think about livening up doing email with wine. I really used to think that, right? A glass of wine made all the admin feel so much more exciting somehow. Goodness knows how much longer I would spend doing the admin because my concentration wasn't there. But that's the story for another time. So let me give you a real life example of how this entertainment angle adds up in an example of my own life. Now, I recently went to see Evita at the theatre. It was something I was really looking forward to. And the plan was that afterwards we would be driving about an hour to stay overnight near one of our sons, right? So we had this kind of mapped out. It was a simple, lovely plan. I mean, a normal evening for me, we felt very much in control. We would have a great time and we'd be setting ourselves up for success the next day with what we wanted to do. But a few years ago, that wouldn't have happened at all like that. My thinking would have been different. The experience would have been so different, because here's what would have been happening. I'd have been planning the wine. I'd be there at the theatre early to get a drink in before the show. And we'd be pre-ordering one, if not two, for the interval, probably one to drink in the interval, and then maybe one to take into the performance in the second half. And I say this because I know these were not huge glasses, but that probably wouldn't have stopped me either. Anyway, So I'd been planning all of that. And then the logistics of this, they would kick in, right? It would be, so if I want to be doing all this, I won't be able to drive. For sure, I couldn't drive with that much alcohol in my system. So would I be able to get my husband to drive? Would I be able to ask him to not drink instead? And he wasn't ever really a huge drinker. But can you see what I'm doing here? That in order for my pleasure to be ensured, I'd be requiring something of him. Kind of, he would be paying the price for that. Even if maybe he wanted a beer or two. And then I'd be saying, basically, you can't do that because I want this. Or then my other option would be I choose to not drink. And can you hear just saying this? I can take myself back there. But I would feel deeply, deeply resentful about this, right? Like I was missing out on something, even though I'd be going to the theatre to see one of my favourite shows. And it was such a treat. Such a treat. But I'd already be, before I stepped in, it would be, okay, this is not going to be so good. And I wish I didn't have to do this. And I'd be thinking it's a real pain that we have to drive afterwards. Why do we have to be so close to one of our sons? Can't we just stay closer? Can you see all the finagling that would be going on in my brain? And in looking at this, and I couldn't see this at the time, but I was making wine, the actual star of the evening. The axis around everything would be figured out and measured. Not the show, not seeing Evita, not the night, not the razzmatazz of going to the theatre, not the fun and the joy and the connection I'd have with my husband. It would be kind of like a date night. None of that. It would be, how am I going to fit the wine in and still do this safely but still have a great time? So now, what happened now, this year, I enjoyed the performance. Actually, I didn't think it was that great a rendition of Evita. They're just telling you what I think. I have seen far, far better ones, but I do like the song still. It was still a fun evening out. The theatre was fun. Went to the London Palladium. That's huge. It's wonderful. And the whole thing. But I didn't even have a drink at half time. It was like, I think I had, when I got there, I had a glass of tap water because I just didn't want anything. It was irrelevant. It was so relevant to the evening. And then the best thing of all, when we'd finished at the theatre, we got into the car, done, no driving, no drama rather, no decision fatigue, right? Just got in the car and drove the hour to the place and didn't resent it at all, loved it, right? There was no needing alcohol to feel like I'd had a proper night out. The entertainment was the experience, was the entertaining bit, not the wine. Wine had nothing to do with it. And that honestly feels so rich and full and free. And I tell you this because this is about so much more than just don't have the drink. This is about what we make it mean, and this is what we can achieve in our lives, what the experiences we can have when we just segment it and take it out of there, right? So I wanted to start with that because it just struck me it was just night and day as to how it used to be when we went to the theatre. Now, so why does this all happen, right? Why do we get ourselves into basically a bit of a tizzy about this where we need to have the wine? I'd be there planning my interval drinks. Gosh, so strange to think. Planning my interval drinks over thinking about the songs and so on. Well, it's because we have been taught to associate alcohol with everything good. There's a celebration, have some champagne or wine. We want to relax, have a glass of wine. You want to connect over a date night, split a bottle of wine. Are you bored? Definitely wine is needed. It becomes the go-to for breaking up the monotony, for signaling I matter too in a day full of obligations. And the truth is, we do need transitions. We do need a sense of occasion. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with transitioning from work to evening, from making a bit of a show about going to the theatre. But when wine becomes, if not the only thing, the main thing providing that, then we start building a life where joy and fun and permission, all of that, and freedom and all those things that we want are all outsourced to what is in our glass. Now, here's something I want to underline from years of working with this, with high achievers, who've been quietly struggling with this, maybe people just like you, right? Because I'm always far, far more interested in how my clients achieve their results than what the actual numbers of glasses of wine drunk, right? Because the moment you get the process working, which includes all the things like how you handle a craving, how you navigate your evening, how you handle triggers, how you handle perceived judgments of other people, all of these things, when you manage that, then the results follow every single time. Your results become inevitable when you do the process, right? And this is not about chasing perfection. This is about building a system that works even when it feels messy and even when you're going to the theater. And this is what happens. This is why it's so worth it. When wine stops being the thrill of the day, you start noticing how many real joys have been waiting for you underneath. You see entertainment all around you. So let's look at how this shows up in real life. Maybe you get home from a long day and the wine is the only treat you've got lined up. Or, as I was saying earlier, you open your laptop to do emails and you find yourself thinking, I'll get through these faster with a glass in hand, right? Because we're feeling resentful so we're having to work in the evening. Or maybe you're planning a dinner with friends and your first thought isn't about food or connection. It's, will there be enough wine and how many bottles do I need to buy? And maybe you'll also be worrying, how can I make sure that I don't drink too much, but I still have enough without anyone noticing? I mean, my goodness, all the thought that used to go into that. These are all the subtle patterns and they all add up. And here's what they do. They reinforce the idea that without wine, the moment is less. But here's what I want to offer. What if that isn't true? What if you are the entertainment? Your mind, how you show up, right? The power you have, the authority you have, the agency you have to create a life that actually feels like yours. So how do we do this? I mean, practically, Anna, that sounds good, but how do we do this? Here's what happens. You do not need to replace wine with some green juice and a gratitude journal, unless you want to, of course. I think it starts with asking better questions. So try these for size. What am I expecting this drink to give me right now? What would feel like fun or pleasure on my own terms? What do I want this moment to mean, even without a glass of wine? Now, here's the deal. You may not have great answers to these questions, at least to start with, but even just asking the question starts to loosen the grip. It's kind of the default reaction that wine is the be-all and end-all, because it means you get to experiment. You start to guess at ideas. You start to give yourself a chance to rebuild this. Now, I want you to remember this. You are not boring if you drink less. You are not missing out if you drink less. You are no longer living on autopilot. You are no longer giving the responsibility for entertainment to liquid in a glass. Instead, you are there being you. You are there doing your thing. You are there looking for a better way out of this. And if you're thinking and listening to this and thinking, yes, wine has taken up too much space, I want something different, come and talk with me. Book yourself a free discovery call. Go to 90dayslater.co and you'll see the link at the top. I understand what's going on. I have lived this experience and I have come through the other side, and now I help hundreds of people just like you to figure this out. You will feel great and you will create the life that you want, where wine is not the sole focus of entertainment. All right, I will see you next week. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the back seat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.